we're capturing all of our good experiences in a resume. And there's a lot of us that go to sit down and write a resume. And we're not quite sure how to put that together. At CareerSpace, we have trained professionals that will sit with you either one-on-one or in a group setting and give you all of the tips and tricks on how to put all of your experiences in a comprehensive way on a resume. The additional training that we receive at CareerSpace as professionals is we actually get to sit down with employers and we get to ask the question, what are you looking for in an individual? And then they tell us, and then we tell you, and that usually means that Trent students get their resume on the top of the pile. In addition to this, we help develop your network. We put you in touch with people that will lead you to a wonderful career or job opportunities. And then we help you, we sit down, we can talk to you about what you'd like to do for a job, and we can help you explore those career options.
So Juliana mentioned building your skills, and here's a number of skills that our students develop while they are on campus, volunteering or working at a variety of different departments and different spots. So leadership, event planning, office administration, customer service, all of these skills will directly relate to your career. In addition, as Juliana mentioned, we have staff that are here to meet with you. So if you're looking to improve your resume or have someone take a look at your materials before you send them off to an employer, our staff would be more than happy to do that. We also hold mock interviews, which is something that's really exciting. Interviews should not be scary if you're well prepared and you've had the opportunity to sit down and meet with staff and get some feedback. Our goal is to try to make that a less stressful experience for you as a student.
We have a wonderful resource available to you on our website, and we'll drop the link in the chat after our presentation. But a lot of students find themselves sitting in a classroom or sitting in their program and thinking, what am I going to do with my degree? What are my career options? So we have a wonderful resource. We have a webpage called What You Can Do With Your Degree. And what it is, it aligns your specific program, whether it's English or biology or business. And we've taken jobs that our alumni have graduated from those programs and jobs that they've found themselves in. So this is actual data from real Trent alumni and the different jobs that they're doing now that are related to the program that they took. So again, we'll drop that into the chat, but it's really an interesting thing to explore because there's a plethora of opportunities for you in terms of jobs, no matter what program you take at Trent.
Wonderful. And I should mention as well that all of our appointments are available remotely. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're meeting with a career counselor or you'd like to have your LinkedIn profile reviewed, or you don't have a LinkedIn profile and you'd like to get started, we are very flexible and we're able to work around your schedule.
So there is something that you'll hear a lot of, it's called experiential learning. And basically what that means, it's learning that happens outside of a traditional classroom setting. And again, several years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, we had students that would graduate and they would go to an interview and they say, yeah, I had a wonderful and enriching experience at Trent inside the classroom. But there was a lack of hands-on learning. So they would get into an interview situation. The interviewer would say, can you tell me about a time when you worked? And the students would say, well, I didn't, but I learned about it in the class. So they came back to us and said, we need more experience. And so that's exactly what Ryan and I are here to do, is to provide you with those hands-on learning experiences. And so experiential learning is essentially what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add that one of the most meaningful experiences that students often have is being connected to an industry partner. If you think about it, you're spending a lot of time in the classroom, and what we have done here at Trent is we've taken that classroom and we've taken it off the campus in many regards. So we're getting you out into the community, you're rolling up your sleeves, you're getting hands-on experience. If you're in biology, you're going out and doing field work, you might be gaining real practical experience with a company. And it's not actually all that surprising for us to hear from students that have done these different types of experiential learning opportunities that they've been offered a job. So it's really exciting when we have students come back to us and report that. As I mentioned, experiential learning works because it brings together students, the community organization, staff, and faculty, and it's really about these deep learning opportunities for you. Yeah. It's pretty exciting. There's two main types of experiential learning: curricular, which is traditionally for credit, for academic credit, and then the other type, which we call co-curricular. And so co-curricular typically also involves employers, and that is more aligned with volunteerism. So most students will volunteer some of their free time outside of the classroom, but here at Trent, we also recognize that that's a valuable contribution, and we actually will work with you to track that and make sure that you actually get acknowledgement for the work that you're doing in the community.
Now I'd like to dive in and give you some sort of examples of what actual students are doing in their programs at Trent. So for instance, we have a lot of hands-on learning experience that our social work students get to take part in. So just this year, we had a student that went around to the local schools in the fall and helped develop community and school events. So working with children and community partners to develop events to bring those individuals closer together. So a real opportunity for leadership. A lot of our social work students also have the opportunity to go into clinical practice with some psychiatrists and psychotherapists, and that is a huge opportunity for our students to really help combat some mental health crisis that we see, not only regionally, but all over, especially with the pandemic. So students have come back from those experiences very enriched, and now they get to go and be practitioners themselves, and they feel like they're well set up.
All right, so placements in practicums, they're great examples of curricular learning. So that's learning that will complement your degree requirements. And these are things like field placements, professional practicums, which are required for nursing and education in our School of Social Work. You might also get credit for participating in conferences or undertaking a performance or taking part in a simulation or our cooperative education program. When we talk about field placements in particular, we have field placement opportunities in almost all of our programs at Trent. And this is a list of some of the more popular field placement programs that we have.
Speaking of curricular programs, another highlight for our School of Business. Our School of Business is phenomenal at Trent University. And so just this year, some really exciting projects that have happened. We had a student from a strategic management course, and they worked with a publicly traded company to develop their strategic business plan. So again, a huge opportunity and opportunity for leadership and learning there. We also had a fourth-year student analyze Canadian public firms for investment and risk management strategies, which is so important in terms of growing the economy. And then we had a couple of fourth-year accounting interns who worked with big accounting firms in Toronto, and they did so well that they were actually offered full-time jobs after graduation. So that goes back to what Ryan was saying earlier. A lot of our students that have these hands-on work experiences while they're in school end up working with these companies after they graduate. So it's a wonderful way to build your network. Cooperative education. So we have currently 2 co-op programs at Trent, and a co-op program is a work term and then a study term, and a work term and then a study term for the duration of your degree, whether that's 3, 4, or 5 years. So right now we have co-op programs in computing systems and conservation biology, but I am so thrilled to let you know that we are diligently working behind the scenes to tremendously increase our co-op offerings. And so we're really excited to be able to bring you those at some point in the future. Some examples of what our students are doing in computing systems. There is computer risk management and privacy. So we have one student that was working with a big firm in Toronto to make sure that all of their software and all of their information was being protected, which is so important. And then for conservation biology, we had one of our star students for a work term. He moved out to British Columbia and he was doing some assessments on the bullfrog population and was able to monitor and address that. And then all of his research was actually used by Parks Canada to develop new programming in terms of wetland supporting.
Wonderful. So in closing, we wanted to just throw some more ways that you can get involved as a student on campus and off campus. And just a reminder, all of these opportunities will help prepare you for success upon entering the workforce. I have the pleasure of coordinating Trent's Community-Based Research Center, which brings our 3rd and 4th year students into the community to answer research questions. And normally that's done over an 8-month period, and the research is supervised by a faculty. Really a special place, you know, up there on the 3rd floor of the Student Center Career Space. We cannot say again how grateful we are to be here today with you, and we really do hope that you visit Career Space today. As our last slide says, your future will thank you. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to us, Juliana or myself, at experiential@trentu.ca, and thank you again.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Juliana and Ryan. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next speaker.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to the next speaker. Allow me to introduce you to Paul. Paul Longhurst is a Trent University's Manager of Global Engagement. He works with a dynamic team of professionals to support all of Trent's international students from admission through to graduation and beyond. Paul is a regulated international student immigration advisor with many years of experience supporting the unique immigration needs of international students. Paul has a master's degree in communication and culture from York University, and is also a proud Trent graduate. He is interested in Canadian migration policy and is passionate about supporting newcomers. Paul volunteers his time to welcome refugees into the local community. Outside of immigration-related work, Paul enjoys spending time outdoors and runs an organic farm with his family. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks so much, Adele, and thank you to everyone else for being here. It's my pleasure to speak with you. That's a great little bio about me. I do love working with newcomers, and that's what I'm going to speak with you today about, is how we have this phenomenal team at Trent International. We're the experts in supporting our international students as they come to Canada and throughout their academic journeys. So I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to take you through a presentation that shows the different services that we offer here in our office. But then I'd like to invite you to ask any questions you have relating to immigration, relating to the supports that we offer your students when they get here, and ways that we can support you as well. So please bear with me while I share my screen. Oh, sorry, stop presenting. Excellent. So international student supports, it's a big deal. Studying abroad, coming to a new country, to a new culture, to a new climate, these are legitimately huge undertakings for a student. And those of us who work in Trent International and in international student services understand these challenges. We've been supporting newcomers for many years. Many of us have studied abroad ourselves. And so we know the fears that your students may have. We know the excitement, we know the trepidation, and we can help them to navigate those challenges. As Adele said, I am the Global Engagement Manager. Prior to taking on this role leading the team, I was Trent's Immigration Advisor for several years. So we have a great depth of knowledge about the Canadian immigration policy and the hurdles and challenges that some students face in getting their study permits and visas. I'm not going to go into great detail about how to apply for a study permit today, but I am available to support students as they go through that application process, as is my team. Adele's mentioned this. I think the most important part in this whole little bio is the fact that I'm a Trent grad. I did my undergraduate here. I really love my experience. And if there's one thing I can say about Trent University, is that we're a human scale university. We're the kind of university where you develop these interpersonal relationships. A student can come, make connections with faculty, staff, professors, and have those relationships continue long after they graduate. When I graduated, I went on my way with my life. I went and did my master's at a much bigger university in a bigger city, and it was great. But the opportunity to come back to Trent and reconnect with the community here in Peterborough is where I am based, but also in Durham, to connect with my colleagues, the faculty, and the students that I work with, most importantly, day to day, is really a highlight of my career. And I think that the relationship's reciprocal. I think students really appreciate that they can show up in the international office, they can connect with us virtually, they can connect outdoors in our beautiful campus and ask their questions and get direct, real answers from a human who actually cares about them. And because we're small enough that we can have those personal relationships. So that's a bit of the Trent magic, I would say. But it's not just me. We have a wonderful team that works at Trent International and the global engagement side of things. We are, as I said, the experts in supporting international students. We understand all of the challenges of coming to a new country, of learning in a second or third or fourth language, of winter. Today I woke up and it was about minus 30 degrees out. There's about 2 feet of snow. And for those of you who have never lived in a cold climate, this is a major, major challenge. But it's also super exciting. And we've done simple things like organize a clothing drive so that students get warm clothes when they arrive if they need them. We organize outdoor activities so that students can experience the fun and joy that can actually happen when you live in a different climate zone, as well as all of the supports that a student needs to be successful academically. I don't know the total sum of our years we have combined in supporting newcomers to Canada, but in our office, it's got to be close to 100 years of supporting international students. We have a great diverse team. Many of us have been working in this field for more than a decade, and many of us have also come to Canada as international students and stayed or studied abroad as students. In addition to the knowledge base that we have at Trent International, we're super well connected with our colleagues around the university. If we can't answer a question, we can connect a student with the people who can, as well as beyond the campus. We have great relationships with some of our support services in the broader community, whether it's healthcare, whether it's newcomer settlement services, whether it's just other community opportunities to get involved and feel like you're part of a community outside of the university community as well. We recognize that it's a real essential foundation for a student to be successful is to have these diverse relationships where they can really shine, be themselves, and find their place in their new home. We support students at all levels of study. So whether you're coming as an ESL student, an undergraduate student, graduate studies, or doing a postgraduate certificate, our services are pan-university. So we'll support students from all different majors, all different subjects. So we're basically helping students is what we do. We're so proud to be able to do that. And I'm going to tell you more details about the services we offer right now. Maybe the service that's most relevant or obviously relevant to international students is our immigration advising. Jessica Evans is our colleague who is also a regulated international student immigration advisor. To give immigration advice in Canada, you have to have taken an extensive course, you have to be past the entrance exam into the college, and you have to be approved by this regulatory body to give immigration advice. We do this to protect our students, to make sure they're not getting misinformation, and to ensure that we are giving them the most up-to-date, timely, and comprehensive advice possible. So Jessica and I both have our license. She, in her day-to-day work, does more of the one-on-one advising with students, but I remain available as well to assist when needed and to also inform our policies around supporting students as they're coming to Canada and staying as well. Our support extends across the duration of a student's studies, right from pre-arrival webinars on how to apply for a study permit and a visa, through extending a study permit if a student needs to. My colleagues from Career Space are talking about our co-op programs. So some students may need to get a co-op work permit as well. We can help with that. For students who graduate and wish to remain in Canada, our post-graduation work permit program in Canada is one of the most desirable immigration pathways available for someone who wants to stay and work in a foreign country and potentially lead on a pathway to permanent residency. So we will walk them through all of those steps as well. Additionally, we're here when the unfortunate and odd things happen with someone's immigration document, like say they lose their study permit or say they have to amend their conditions because something happened. We can walk them through the more complex situations pertaining to amendments and replacements. We do this in various ways. We're able to do one-on-one advising. Obviously, given the current situation and given our students studying all around the world, we do offer one-on-one virtual advising as well as one-on-one in-person advising. For our topics that are more broadly applicable and not so specific to one student, we offer workshops and info sessions throughout the year based on the chronology of when a student will need to know these different informations. We have more than immigration advising, though. Academic advising is also provided in our office. Our colleague Barbara, she's wonderful, kind, knowledgeable. She worked in admissions for a long time, and now she's providing academic advice to our students at all levels, except for graduate studies, because their requirements are a little more specific to their program, but they have different advisors that they can rely on. So our ESL, undergraduate and postgrad certificate students can rely on Barbara to make sure that they're progressing through their degree on course. They can navigate any changes that they have, any academic road bumps along the way. So maybe a grade wasn't what they wanted. Maybe they failed a course for some reason. We can help navigate that through various means, including helping to prepare academic petitions or appeals, maybe changing a major. I should mention, a lot of students come with a goal in mind of a specific job, a specific degree, a specific outcome. And let me tell you from personal experience and from working with hundreds and hundreds of students, plans change. And here at Trent, we're able to support students as, you know, you may take an elective course and you may fall in love with a subject you didn't even know was an option. So as students consider new paths, our academic advising team can help them in changing majors, in using the credits they maybe earned in their first year to apply in their second year in a different direction. Or if a student's coming from another institution and has earned some prior credits, we can help assist to get those potentially used as transfer credits to reduce the duration of their studies they have to do at Trent. Additionally, should a student start at Trent, study for a couple of years, and then want to go elsewhere for a term or for a few courses, we can assist with doing what's called a letter of permission, which will allow them to study at another Canadian or even international university, or through one of our formal study abroad programs as well. Again, Barbara, like Jessica, offers one-on-one advising as well as workshops. Miguel Capilla Bagatella, he is our international student programming assistant. So he is the man who runs all of the activities to help new students find their place at Trent. We run a very robust and extensive new student orientation program. I'm really proud of it. It's one of the most thorough I've ever witnessed at a university. We do pre-arrival support for students before they come to Canada to make sure that they're prepared to enter. We do in-person activities when they get here to make sure that they know the campus, the community, and that they make some human connections within their first days being on campus. And we have lots of opportunities to deal with any newcomer issues they may have. In addition to that orientation week, Miguel leads workshops on topics that are uniquely specific to international students. The topics that other departments maybe don't even need to address because a Canadian, probably knows how to navigate the winter weather, for example, or file their income taxes, or even the basics of, financial literacy in a Canadian context. So we offer these tailored workshops to give international students, to put them at an equal playing field with Canadians, or maybe give them a slight advantage. Other things as well, accessing healthcare in a new country. If a student comes and needs to be vaccinated for COVID-19, for example, or any of the routine vaccinations, we offer clinics on campus with that, plus more. Our programming is comprehensive and extensive, and students will have lots of communication once they accept their offer to their Trent email. We send a weekly newsletter. We send lots on our social media, as well as invitations to join, in our orientation and other programming throughout the year. Maybe equally important is that Miguel leads a large and dynamic team of student staff. These are our upper year students who are experts in being successful. They're the ones who can be the peers and the mentors to our new students. They're the ones who can share about their struggles, as well as as well as provide the tips and the advice that maybe they wish they knew as a first-year student and maybe took them a couple of years to learn. And it'll make every incoming cohort have a little bit more easy experience in beginning their studies. Other things, Andressa Costa, she's a Trent grad, a former international student from Brazil who works with us now. She's our wellness coordinator. Mental health is a serious issue for everyone, you know, regardless of where you are in the world. In Canada, we've done a lot of work for a lot of years to destigmatize seeking help for mental health issues. Other countries, not everyone has had the same level of engagement with that. Andressa's here to make accessing care for mental health and your personal wellness accessible, confidential, no judgment at all, and also inviting. So when a student's having other issues that maybe don't fall within the academic or immigration realm, Andressa's a really good person to talk to. She's lovely, charming, welcoming, and very well connected to the community. She'll be leading workshops on her own on how to be resilient as we navigate the challenges of being a student, as well as referring to our supports within the campus community. Related to wellness, Trent International administers the mandatory university health insurance plan. It's called UHIP is the acronym. Claudia Fong is our wonderful colleague who enrolls students, ensures that they're billed. And if a student is coming with a dependent, whether it's a child or a spouse, Claudia can facilitate having them be covered by the same world-class health insurance as well. She also does outreach to educate students about how to access medical care if they need it, and how to maximize their coverage, because they're paying for this insurance. They might as well utilize it if needed. Also, students often don't understand how to access care in different countries. Canada has a world-class healthcare system and a really respected reputation, but sometimes accessing care isn't as easy as it is in other countries where you can just walk into a doctor's office and receive an appointment right away. So we'll navigate the process of getting care here. And UHIP, University Health Insurance Plan, at trentu.ca is the email should any student have questions about accessing their health insurance. I mentioned peer-to-peer support. For students who are new incoming students, the students you'll be working with who have been given an offer and accept their offer, they're going to be connected quickly with a global ambassador. These are our upper year students, often scholarship recipients, often leaders on campus, who will connect one-on-one with these new students, not with any formal agenda, mostly to be there to be just a human voice to ask questions to have a dialogue back and forth. They can meet virtually, whether it's via Zoom, via text, via email, via WhatsApp, and make sure that those students feel like they're coming to Canada prepared. And when they get here, these global ambassadors will also be physically available to meet them as they get off the bus, to welcome them to campus, to show them around, to introduce them to other people who are thriving on campus, and alleviate a lot of that fear of being a stranger in a strange place. Related, we work really closely at Trent International with a group called the Trent International Students Association. TISA is the acronym, T-I-S-A. This is a student group. It's led by international students primarily, with some domestic students. It's the largest student-led group on campus. And what they do is they provide a forum for our diverse cultures on campus. We have 80 countries represented at Trent, so we have the world here. This is a space where someone can share their culture as well as learning from others. So if you're coming from a place anywhere else to Canada and you're feeling homesick, you know, often a really good remedy for that homesickness is to share what you love about home, whether it's cuisine, whether it's music, whether it's culture, dance, performance, attire, tradition, whatever. TISA is the hub where you can do that, share with others, and learn about other people's complementary traditions. Maybe the culmination of this cultural, crossing and sharing is every March at the event that is called Cultural Outreach. What happens last year was virtual, but in previous years, they rent this giant theater in the downtown of the city, and they do 2 performances on the stage, and they invite the whole community, and it is a well-rehearsed, auditioned, world-class performance of culture, whether it's dance, music, singing. The students will really have a chance to shine, show what they love from home. We record it, we can stream it out so that parents and family and people back home can see this amazing celebration of your home in the student's new home. And it's something that is always a real joy to go to. I take my whole family, and I think most of the staff here do as well. So it's a really, really great opportunity. The leadership of TISA, they're elected. So these are peer elected presidents, vice presidents, communications people, and they're available to advocate for international students. They work really closely, they meet regularly with myself and senior administration to make sure that international students' voices are heard on campus when we're planning all of our activities and all of our operations. Additionally, some of your students may be coming for ESL, so we have student support that is tailored to them. Juan Yuzuro Perez, he is a Trent grad, former international student from Mexico, who now works in the ESL office. He is available to be the direct point of contact for ESL students. He understands the unique challenges of students who are learning English to study in an academic context. He's a patient listener, a very kind, compassionate person, and he will facilitate connections with the people who can help. Additionally, he hosts events for ESL students, trips, celebrations, and really make those students feel like they're part of the whole campus community for sure, but also this special group of our students who are coming to learn English with the desire to study university in English at a high level in the near future. Additionally, he co-runs the Trent Speaking Partner Program, which is a really great opportunity for people who are learning English to connect with others and have just informal opportunities for a dialogue back and forth to practice speaking. Anyone in this meeting who has learned or tried to learn a second or third language, it's very different learning in a classroom versus learning informally, and we try to provide opportunities for both here at Trent. This was mentioned in an earlier slide, but Trent, we're leaders in offering funding to our international students. This is something that I'm really proud to be a part of. We have well over $1 million of funding allocated to our students through various channels this year. We offer entrance scholarships for new students based on their high school grades, essentially, and community contributions. We offer in-course scholarships. So if a student comes and maybe they weren't eligible for an entrance scholarship because their average was a little bit low, that's okay, that's life. But they do really well in their first year. If they achieve good grades in their first year, typically an A, an 80 or higher, they will be eligible to receive an in-course scholarship in their subsequent years, which will help offset some of the cost of their tuition. Additionally, we know that life happens, it's hard, unforeseen expenses happen. Maybe it's something like you spilled a coffee on your laptop and you need it for an exam that day. Maybe it's something more major, like, for some reason you had to fly home because there was a family emergency. We offer these emergency bursaries to provide, quick one-time financial assistance to students who experience an unforeseen hardship. There's an application on their web portal, and we will assess it quickly and make sure that they get some funding to help their challenge. Additionally, we have lots of opportunities to get students involved on campus. If a student is a community leader, there are awards available that come with some financial funding as well as the formal acknowledgement that we do their work, we appreciate it. Trophies, plaques, their names will be forever immortalized on our wall of award-winning students, which is a real honor as well. So that gives you an idea of the services we have. What I hope that makes clear is that we have a whole wealth of services at both of our campuses to make sure that our students feel welcomed. What I want to talk really quickly about now is just that when students are preparing to arrive in Canada, it's not as easy as getting accepted and buying a plane ticket. Obviously, getting a study permit and a visa is your first step. But then there are additional complications that COVID-19 has caused for international travel. I'm not going to go into full details with you now, but what I want you to take away from this session is that Trent has a safe arrival team to help students navigate these ever-evolving rules, and to make sure that when they are able to come to Canada, they'll have minimal hindrances on arrival, that they can get through the process of quarantining if required, and then be admitted into our residence or start our classes right away. We've been working, well, actually, I should begin by saying that Trent was one of the first universities in the whole entire country to be approved to welcome international students during the pandemic. At the start of the pandemic, our entire borders were closed out of the interest of public safety, and Trent came up with a very comprehensive safety plan to welcome students back to campus. We were one of the very first to be approved, and we've been working very closely with our local public health agency, our local government, provincial government, as well as the federal government, Immigration Canada, and others to ensure that Trent students are being prioritized and supported as they come to Canada. One of the major ways that we can do this is by requiring every single student coming to Canada, whether it's a new student or whether it's a returning student, that they prepare what's called a safe arrival plan. It's a bit of work, but it also minimizes their headaches. It's a plan that shows the who, what, when, where, why, and how a student is going to come to Canada, how they're going to isolate, how they're going to meet the entry requirements. And our safe arrival team will personally review everyone, provide individualized feedback, and approve it when it meets the rigor that the federal government requires. Students will then upload it to the federal government's app they've created, and then show it to the border agent. And then basically, because it's been pre-approved, they should have no issues when they get to Canada. As you probably know, processing times for study permits are taking a really long time. It's a super annoying reality, but our colleagues in Immigration Canada and our visa issuing offices are catching up. And I'm assuming that by the summer, when our September intake is, they're being approved finally, they'll be back on their regular course of study permit approval times. I mentioned the safe arrival plan. The good news, though, is that if you have a study permit, you can come to Canada. They can arrive anytime, basically, once they have it, as long as we know in advance. And should a student study online, be it in the winter term now or next summer, those online studies will count towards their post-graduation work permit. So that's good news. And Trent International will remain available to support them throughout the coming months as we get ready for our big September intake. Trent has pivoted back to in-person studies primarily. The fall term was fully in person. It went very well. We're going to continue this trend. We took a little online break in January due to the COVID peak, but we're going back to in-person studies in February, following all public health guidelines, obviously. And one thing we've all learned this year is the ability to pivot if we need to. So if we have to, we can deliver our courses in a slightly different way. We know that COVID vaccination hasn't been equitable throughout the world. This is a major problem. One thing that we're doing here to assist is that we're ensuring that when international students come who haven't been maybe fully vaccinated at home, we can make sure that they can get their full dose of vaccination here. If they need a booster, if they need a vaccination record updated, we can do that in Canada, and it's a priority for us. And should medical care be needed, as I mentioned, we have this comprehensive health insurance to get them support and care immediately. Most important thing to know, if students have questions about, or even you have questions about coming to Canada or supporting a student in coming to Canada, safearrival@trentu.ca is our email address. We monitor it 7 days a week. We have all of our information on our Safe Arrival webpage, and we follow up quickly, and we give you detailed answers. A little bit closer to the start of the term, we'll resume doing weekly Safe Arrival webinars, much like this, where a student can show up and be walked through all of the current immigration rules, guidelines, and policies to make sure that they're able to come when they're ready to come. I'm going to skip this because it's essentially in the Safe Arrival plan. Trent, so about vaccines quickly, Trent requires everybody that's on campus to be vaccinated. It's one of the ways that we maintain a safe campus. If you're living in housing, definitely fully vaccinated. If you're going to be on campus for studies, also fully vaccinated. We'll make sure that you're vaccinated and you have proof before you're on campus. We'll issue a letter of support to prove that you're a student, that your plan has been approved, and to just support your desire to enter the country. And here is our contact info. So I invite you to contact me anytime. My email is just my first initial, P, Longhurst@trentu.ca. And Safe Arrival questions, as I said, safearrival@trentu.ca is the best email to be sending them to. I know I talked a lot. I know my slides weren't as flashy, but I really hope that you got a sense that we care so much about our students, and having this personal connection is what we live for. So when students are coming, we're all happy to jump on a Zoom call like this and have a conversation with them in a dialogue and make them feel like they are going to be welcomed to our community. So thanks so much. A real pleasure to see some familiar and new names, and I hope to stay in touch with you in the coming months. Were there any questions in the chat before I go?
We've been answering them as we go. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Kath.
Thank you, Paul, for that. With the current COVID situation, at least now we know what to do. Our next honorable speaker to talk to us about the importance of academic English to undergraduate success is by our director, Kath, with over 20 years experience in international education, including public and private sectors and roles ranging from summer camp director to university international director. Kath has led academic programming, marketing, and communication teams to deliver on internationalization and international business development goals. A master's degree in leadership, along with an educational degree, and 2 totally unrelated undergraduate degrees. Kath's commitment to learning and leading has extended beyond work to include volunteering on boards for NGOs and currently as president of Languages Canada. There's no doubt that this is fueled by passion for languages, culture, people, and coffee. Kath has a love for her active family and her 2 golden retrievers. Welcome, Kath.
Thank you so much, Adele. It's wonderful to have all of you here. I am not going to present with a presentation. I am going to chat with you and make a few comments. So first of all, I want to let you know that as well as being all of the lovely things that Adele brought up in my bio, I'm a Trent mom. My daughter is a second-year student here at Trent University. And so I'm living this dual experience of working at Trent. I've been working at Trent since 2006, so a long time. And I'm also the mom to a full-time Trent University student. So I have a little bit of a dual perspective on things. And one of the things that I say to my daughter is that you have to work really hard not to thrive as a student at Trent, because there are so many services and supports that you would literally have to close your eyes and ignore all of those things if you want to fail at Trent. We really do have a culture at Trent about putting students first and making education accessible to every single student. So we really bring you in and take care of you so that you can be focused on your studies, engaged as a student, and fulfilling your dreams by studying in Canada. The other thing I wanted to mention, which is going to come up when we do our faculty panel, is that, you know, jokingly, Adele mentions in my bio that my degrees are unrelated, mostly to, you know, my undergraduate degrees are completely unrelated to what I'm doing today. And I look at that and I am so grateful that interdisciplinary studies and a liberal arts education is what leads to really following your dream and finding your place as a professional when you grow up and have to work for a living. So I attribute that to the fact that I did do an interdisciplinary degree, and I discovered not only the subjects that I love, but also I learned about what I was good at and what I'm really competent in that skill set. So let me tell you a little bit about ESL. Students are considered for ESL, or English as a second.
Could you say that again?
Oops. Students are, sorry, my watch is talking to me. Students are recommended to take ESL when they come from a country where English isn't an official language, or they studied in a language that is not English. So maybe you're in a country like Canada where there is more than one official language. So then you need to demonstrate to the university that your English proficiency is strong enough to be a successful student. because that's, that's a big accomplishment. It's a big initiative in life. So if you don't have all of your studies, or you're not from a country where English is an official language, you will need to demonstrate English proficiency if you want to go directly into an undergraduate or graduate program. However, you can bypass any form of English proficiency testing if you come through our Pathway English Language program. And that way, we will assess you when you arrive. And if you meet the language requirement, we don't hold you in ESL, we set you free, you go on ahead and do your university degree. If you require English, we can offer English language from the earliest levels of English to no English, all the way through to prepare you for an undergraduate or a graduate degree. So you don't have to take an external test. We can evaluate your English here and then place you according to your level, where you will be in either one of the, you might start in the core English program where you're actually learning more vocabulary, grammar techniques, and how to write, how to speak, how to listen and understand. We offer all of the different skills, reading, writing, all of the above. We also then transition into two levels that are not only about learning English, but it's about using English in an academic setting. So you're learning to do research. You're learning how to use our library system. You're learning academic skills. It's not just language, it's university preparation. And the distinct value of this program at Trent is that we're giving you university credits for that portion of the program. You can also add additional courses while you're taking those highest levels of language, which means that by the time you're finished ESL, you're actually 75% of your way towards completing your first year of study. You can pick up the additional credits during the summer or by overloading and completely catch up and finish your entire degree, including ESL, within that 4-year honors degree program. So that's allowing you to save time, to save money, and to meet our English language requirement, as well as giving you the distinct advantage of getting a lot of support and service towards being a successful student in Canada. You're learning our curriculum system, you're learning about our university environment, you're learning about the resources that are available to you. So again, it is helping you to thrive as a student, which is where I started. The other distinct advantage of taking the language pathway is that you can also work. So you can take a job on campus and you can be in the ESL program and work on campus and continue to find another way to fund your education. So there's so many advantages to this program. It's not for everyone. It's only for those who require English as a second language, although I would plug the highest level of the program just as a term to help you adjust to life at university and to really set yourself up for success. And I will leave it at that. Thank you so much, Adele.
Thank you, Kath. Thank you for the wise words. Moving on, next, we'll have our plenary panel. And allow me to introduce you to our most honorable doctors, Dr. Firang and Dr. Baban. Dr. Firang is Assistant Professor at Trent University, Department of Social Work, and he's also an avid supporter of Trent International with a deep and sincere passion for helping students from Ghana and beyond to find their way to Trent University. Dr. Firang is a respected faculty member with research interest in child welfare, immigrant transnationalism and settlement, housing, community development, and social policy issues. Dr. Firang was a curriculum leader in social policy and community development courses in the Master of Social Work for Working Professionals program. Dr. Firang also spent several years in the community and clinical practice in the field of child welfare, conducting child protection investigations, carrying out assessments, developing and implementing service plans for children and their families, as well as preparing and attending family court to advocate for the children and families that he worked with. Through his work, Dr. Ferang assisted countless children. He has also assisted immigrant community groups to obtain grants to manage their community programs. Further, over the last 15 years, Dr. Ferang has played active leadership role in equity-seeking communities, especially the Ghanaian community in Toronto and the Ghanaian Methodist community in North America. Welcome, Dr. Ferang. On the other hand, allow me to introduce Dr. Baban, who is a long-standing friend to Trent International. As an associate professor and researcher in the International Development Studies Department, Dr. Baban specializes in global and comparative politics with an emphasis on globalization and critical theories of international relations. His main teaching interests are global politics, migration, and citizenship. His current research interests include the impact of cosmopolitan theory, migration, and citizenship politics. Dr. Baban is currently working on 2 social sciences and humanities research council funded 5-year research projects. The first project investigates why, how, and under what conditions some communities in various European countries are more open to cultural difference than others. What types of projects facilitate openness to newcomers, and how do citizens and non-citizens participate in these projects in ways that transform understandings of citizenship and belonging? The second project studies humanitarian assistance to Syrian refugees and right claims emerging from legal, political, and economic precarious conditions Syrian refugees face in Turkey. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Baban and Dr. Ferang give us their perspectives on our topic today. You're welcome. You're welcome, Dr. Ferang. Welcome, Dr. Baban.
Thank you, Adele.
Now, to begin with, Trent University interdisciplinary roots continue through to our teaching and learning today. Why is interdisciplinary education still relevant today? And what are the main tenets of an interdisciplinary education? Thank you, Dr. Faber.
I think Dr. Ferang is muted.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Adele, and thank you, Trent International, for organizing this space to allow students all over the world to come and listen to what is so unique about Trent. And thank you, everyone, and for giving me the privilege. And for me, it's an honor to speak during this event. But as Adele just mentioned, you just want to quickly explain some aspect of interdisciplinary education, right? So I will quickly bring it up and then bring in on my own involvement of interdisciplinary education here at Trent, right? But to start with, and nonetheless, I want to engage, and I like engaging. So, I mean, I'm not going to follow the PowerPoint. At the point, I'll just run around. But I just brought it up just to give you an idea. We all believe that our world is changing. The changing dynamics of our global world require that all knowledge from different fields of inquiry come together to integrate and to collaborate, to allow students the opportunity to also experience different ways of learning. So therefore, interdisciplinary education for me is a revolutionary way of learning that encourages cross-disciplinary collaboration. It enables students to develop critical thinking skills, and present many real-world opportunities for growth. For me, I always tell my students that interdisciplinary just encourage different way of knowing. Now, in the real world, there are multiple realities. When the scientists will tell you that, those who the natural scientific realm will tell you that if we are all looking at this my phone, you see here, you see it's black. Everybody who believe in the idea of objectivity should see that phone as black. There is no way that you're going to see that phone as yellow, green, or blue. That is not science. Science believes in that objective reality. And when you bring in multidisciplinary, right, then we are encouraged to understand that there are different ways of understanding and experience and seeing this phone, not just seeing this phone as only black, but we can also see this phone as probably different types of colors and different perspectives. And that is encouraging multiple ways of knowing, right? Now at Trent, our interdisciplinary education for me is applied within education and training pedagogies that describe how we use different methods and insight of several established disciplines and traditional fields of inquiry. For me, coming to Trent, I'm so impressed and I'm so fortunate to be in a system where interdisciplinary allow us, researchers, students, educators, in connecting and integrating our ideas in several fields of inquiries, right? Now, let me give you an example. For instance, the current global health crisis brought about by COVID-19 pandemic requires understanding of diverse disciplines to solve a complex problem. I'm coming from the social work perspective, but quite recently, as soon as the pandemic hit, I was able to delve into research into the pandemic and publish 2 key articles on that. And I was even surprised to learn that being a social scientist, I'm getting calls from the medical profession about, I wrote something about the impact of COVID-19 on international students. Now, international students, when they have come here, because of their immigration status, right? They are not as landed immigrants, they are not Canadian citizens, they do not qualify for so many opportunities like SEP and all other programs. But then the question becomes, regardless, especially those international students from racialized background like Africa, my inquiry in the scientific realm believe that what is going to happen to them when there is this school closed down, lockdown, travel restrictions? They are even more vulnerable to the other vulnerable population group that society has even identified. So I made a case for that. And I was so impressed that my article was among the first to be published around May of 2020, right? And then it's bringing that perspective. I'm not epidemiologist, but I was able to, because of the interdisciplinary power, I was from Trent that I gained, I was able to make an incisive role into understanding the complex issues around COVID-19, using international students as a case example. I'm just providing that example. So therefore, by our interdisciplinary education program, we are able to allow our learners, those of you who are listening to me today, our potential learners, to combine multiple disciplines and pursue different ways of thinking about the same problem, right? The same problem of COVID-19. We have different way of thinking. That is the beauty of our society. So therefore, we also invite students to consider the dynamics of different perspectives to inform theory, research, and practice. That is the strength of an interdisciplinary program. I just want to share that I'm also involved in a PhD IDASR. Trent is one of the unique universities that has established PhD program in interdisciplinary social research. And those of you who are listening to me, if you are interested, I'm involved in that program. Currently, I have 2 students that I'm supervising. I have 1 student from South Asia background and then 1 student from Africa. And we are moving and urging cutting-edge research on areas of anti-Black racism and also international students' mobility. So therefore, applying, we can, by interdisciplinary power, we are able to navigate and apply so many different concepts. Let me give you an example. Sometimes people believe that, oh, last time I went to Africa and I was given a presentation, we asked people from the engineering background, the biological sciences to all come together so that we reason. And I was so surprised. Lamentedly, I was crying because those from the engineering background were saying, oh, but we are not the social scientists, so we don't want to be part of it. Our field of inquiry is different, it's scientific method. And I told this professor that, unfortunately, you are exposing your ignorance. Don't you know that the world is really interdisciplinary? Now, and I started applying a concept theories of the physical sciences in my social science research. And I was saying, look at Isaac Newton law of gravity, right? It is talking about the fact that there's a central force in the universe beneath the earth, which is pulling objects towards us. Now, as a social scientist, I'm able to capture this scientific idea and apply it into the real life situation. And I say, look, I can create two centers, Toronto and then Peterborough, right? Toronto is an economic and industrial hub of Canada, right? And Peterborough is also a medium-sized city. By the principles of gravitational force, right? Toronto becomes a big centripetal force, pulling all objects, all locations from different areas towards it. So people in Barrie, Peterborough, who all in the morning will just move and drifted to Toronto because the force, the volume of economic activities, industrial activities, business activities in Toronto has become a force, pulling all these locations, places towards it, so that we can use this in our transportation planning, in our land use planning. Then the professor said, oh my God, thank you, David, for helping me to understand. And I talk about the idea that Archimedes, that flotation, all of them, Poisson, and all those big names that we hear in the physics, they were all philosophers, right? And they use that philosophic idea in navigating their scientific knowledge. So it is really important for us to understand the strength of our interdisciplinary education in this world. Now, for me, when students can understand and make connections across diverse array of knowledge and skills, they embark on a path to a more rewarding lives and employment opportunities. And that is what Trent seeks to provide. Higher education can and must do a better job of leading the way for interdisciplinary silos. And that is exactly what Trent is doing. Now, let me quickly, before I close because we're gonna ask people to ask questions and all that, I want to provide one example of how interdisciplinary education at Trent is addressing issues of EDI, right? I teach in social diversity course and also social policy. Now, I know international students from Africa always reach out to me. They are very worried and scared about the fact that they've heard about racism, right? They've heard about racism and they are talking about racism, and they are very scared about what is happening in Europe, Eastern Europe, and other parts of the world. But I told them that you are coming to a university system where you have the opportunity to explore how differences are constructed, how categories of people are seen as significantly different from one another, and how we create meaning, right? Meaning is attributed to differences. And you understand how people's life are affected by these conceptions of differences. And that way, we are trying to minimize issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I'm so proud of Trent being the first and the very few universities that has embarked on trying to achieve ideas, issues of equity and diversity. So I've been helping my international students who want to seek Trent as their study destination to understand that issue of that. So I help them to that. The recent events of the killing of Black person by the police, right? And the disparity experienced by indigenous people, Black people in the child welfare, in the criminal justice system. So help us to understand that we have to delve into the issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion, using our interdisciplinary educational strength in doing that. And so Trent is doing that, and I'm in that area that help students, faculty members to understand that aspect. So I help my students from different field of inquiry, right, to understand their own social location, reflecting on their social location and along race, gender, sex, ability, class, socioeconomic status, for them to understand that, oh, in my every situation, what is the power dynamics? Being a professor, when I go to the classroom, right, I always reflect on my social location. As I'm a Black, racialized professor, but in some areas, there's a dynamics of power and privilege, right? I mean, I consider myself as upper middle class, being a university professor. In relation to my students, I try to understand how their needs come from, which direction are they drifting, to help them to navigate that we have multiple social locations and identity, and that we are not one single entity or identity. For example, if you take me as a professor, David Ferran, I'm a racialized Black, I'm a professor. When you take ethnicity, I'm African Canadian, I identify as African Canadian. When you take class, I identify myself as middle upper class. So there are some areas of my life that I feel privileged, and there's some other areas of my life that I also feel oppressed. Anybody listen to me, I challenge you to look at this situation and trying to understand that. Put yourself in the axis of your race, age, gender, sex, ethnicity, ability, sexual orientation, and tell me, when you map this, you will notice that there are certain aspects of your life that you are underprivileged, right? And there are certain aspects of your life that you're also privileged. So the question becomes, when we do this critical reflection, then we are able to justify and understand where people are coming from, the people that we interact with, the people that we always meet with, the people that we connect with, where we get into other. So this is coming.
Dr. Farang, so we're running a little short of time. I would like to throw this opportunity to Dr. Babin to answer the question and share his views. So Dr. Babin, so the question I will repeat again, the Trent University interdisciplinary roots continue through to our teaching and learning.
Why was it cut off?
So why is interdisciplinary education still relevant today, and what are the main tenets of an interdisciplinary education? So your thoughts on that, please.
I will tell them, but perhaps I should let Dr. Farang finish first. Not to interrupt him in the middle of his presentation.
Yes.
But I'll let him finish.
Why was it cut off?
I thought I had about 15 minutes. Maybe I misunderstood the time, and I thought that.
No problems. Please continue, Dr. Farang. We're more than glad to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Let me quickly wind it up. So through our interdisciplinary ideas, let me invite all of you to consider issues around race, ethnicity, religion, sex, gender, sexual orientation, disability, age, socioeconomic status. You will notice that there are some areas in your life that you feel privileged, and that will allow the access of the dominant, right? The dominant society member. And there are areas where you see yourself as subordinate. And I always tell my students, are the more oppressive group in the society. And here you will see the different forms of oppression that is meted out. So it is only through an interdisciplinary lens that we can be able to understand bringing this knowledge together to help us to live together as members of a so-called democratic society. Thank you very much. And I'll pause here. If there are any other questions, I would like to address them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Farang. Thank you for the presentation. Now, allow me to ask the question again. Trent University interdisciplinary roots continue throughout our teaching and learning today. Why is interdisciplinary education still relevant today? And what are the main tenets of an interdisciplinary education? Over to you, Dr. Baban.
Thank you, Adele. And I think Dr. Farang explained, very extensively and very eloquently the overall framework of interdisciplinary education and why interdisciplinary education is, is important. But if I sort of, reiterate some of the points that he made and emphasize some of them, and that is the world is a fast changing world. And what we learn today, changes in a very short time period, which is quite, different than what it used to be maybe 20, 25 years ago. So at Trent, and if I experience, or if I focus on the Trent experience a little bit, at Trent, we see knowledge as an integrated whole. And even though you may be in separate departments, you may be studying business or international development or social work or biology, we try to emphasize the connections between those different fields so that you don't necessarily just look at what you learn or your discipline, but you understand the connections between them, that these different areas of inquiry, these different areas of knowledge. And here I'd like to emphasize a very important distinction between training and a knowledge. So if we actually think about, training, learning to do certain things, that is different than education. So when we talk about interdisciplinary education, we actually talking about going beyond doing things. So we emphasize the employability, and you come to university and, with the hope that you will get a profession and then you will get a job, because we all have aspirations, you all have aspirations for future. But it is important to understand that the university education is more than a training. It's more than gaining a skill to do certain things. But the university education is about, understanding the world, understanding yourself, opening yourself up to the outside world, seeing connections, asking questions. So while you learn skills that will allow you to do work, at Trent, as part of your interdisciplinary education, you will actually learn to ask these questions, see the connections, understand the world, see yourself in the larger world, and think about alternatives of whatever that you're doing. So in that respect, interdisciplinary education is very important to go beyond a simple disciplinary boundaries, but to understand how things are connected. And that's why, it was very interesting in International Development Studies department, we have students doing double majors. And one of the things that we see quite often, the business and the international development studies double majors. So, these two disciplines are separate, but in different ways, they actually contribute the way that they understand the world. And the students who take a business degree, they greatly benefit understanding the alternative perspectives that's being taught at the International Development Studies Department, and vice versa. I could say the same thing for international development students to understand, as some of the topics being discussed in interdisciplinary studies. So that's why it's very important to understand that while we focus on disciplines and while we focus on careers, that we need to see education beyond careers, because after all, as individuals, we are more than our jobs. So you should never think about university education about getting a job, because that's just simply training. But you should also think about university education as being transforming yourself, becoming something else, and becoming, opening yourself up to the world. So in that sense, the interdisciplinary education is absolutely necessary and crucial, and a trend. From the beginning of this institution, that's what we've been doing.
Thank you, Dr. Baban. Now, before I go back to ask Dr. Farang for his opinion, I would want to know what you think about Since the post-secondary landscape has shifted towards employability as a main driver for seeking higher education, how does an interdisciplinary education contribute to this pursuit for a career post-graduation?
Hi, Adele. Thank you for your question again. Can you repeat the question?
The post-secondary landscape has shifted towards employability as a main driver for seeking higher education. How does an interdisciplinary education contribute to this?
Excellent question. And thank you. The question is very suggestive, right? I mean, I always tell my students, because my field, that is social work, and also I'm also cross-appointed to sustainability studies, right? These two programs are all interdisciplinary, like the IDIs, International Development Studies Program, right? They are all interdisciplinary, meaning that they draw from different field of inquiry and their skills and then bring it to bear. So in social work, for example, right, we have people with political science idea who come in and help us to understand idea of social welfare policy. Then we have the psychologists who believe in a clinical, psychological way of dealing with human behavior. And then we have the economists who will help us to understand, when I retire my CPP, how much money do I take home, right? And so we bring all this. So it is very important for us to share with our students that having those interdisciplinary skills and knowledge and idea were the best way to get into these days contemporary job market. You can't just say, I'm a physicist, I'm an ecologist, I'm a plant biologist, so I'm looking at only plants. Or for example, with the pandemic happening, you cannot just say, oh, I'm working in the areas of virus. But we need people like a geographer, a medical geographer, who will be able to tell us the distribution of this disease across space, how demographic transition models are helping to mitigate this virus. Because why is it that in Africa, the viral transmission is very low compared to the other parts of the world? We need that kind of interdisciplinary knowledge and skills in order to be able to navigate. That is why we're encouraging you, anybody listening to me, don't just put your eggs in just one basket. You have to capture the idea of interdisciplinarity, where that allows you different levels of skills, knowledge, in order to be able to be successful in this emerging world market. Thank you.
Dr. Baban, I would want to hear your opinion on that. The post-secondary landscape has shifted towards employability as a main driver for seeking higher education. How does an interdisciplinary education contribute to this?
I think the most important dimension of interdisciplinary education is that by allowing you to expand your areas of knowledge and seeing the connections between them, it actually prepares you, as I mentioned in the first question, the fast-changing world, rather than simply, being contained in a single area, that you actually have the skills to think about in different disciplines and moving from one area to another, to pick up skills from different areas and interchange between them. So it actually gives you the flexibility. It gives you the flexibility to understand the connections between different issues, but it also gives you the flexibility to develop new skills. And also to think about even your own field in a much larger scheme. So think about it, you could be a coder, you can write computer codes. So that would certainly be, a skill. But if you actually have an interdisciplinary knowledge about computing, computer sciences, and so on, then that means that you can understand the larger context within which the coding takes place in society. So we talk about, for instance, the artificial intelligence, the role of artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence, for instance, makes decisions about how we, take certain decisions in the courts, how we profile certain people. And as a coder, you may be actually, writing a code, coming up with these algorithms. But if you have an interdisciplinary education, then you understand the context of that coding, what it means actually when you write that code, what happens in society. So that actually brings you a different kind of perspective, so that if you have that interdisciplinary approach, you're not just a coder, but you can actually be a much more innovative leader to thinking about the context. So in that sense, I emphasize the difference between training and an education, and the interdisciplinary education allows you to have this larger thinking skills.
Oh, thank you. What would you consider to be the distinct features of a Trent University degree as a faculty instructor and as a researcher in the field?
Do you want me to answer that question, Adele?
Kindly, Dr. Baban.
Well, I mean, there are lots of areas, but as someone, being quite a long time now at Trent, and also being in other universities around the world, either visiting professor or collaborating with colleagues. To me, the most distinct aspect of Trent, which contributes to that interdisciplinary education, is the close faculty-student contact, because the university education is not just about classroom. Classroom is only one part of it, but great deal of education actually happens outside the classroom, the way that we interact, the way we talk to each other, see each other. And Trent, right from the beginning, actually is designed with that in mind, that kind of interdisciplinary education. Even the campus itself, when you look at it, it's been designed in a way to encourage interaction. Now, in the current environment, that's not the case. But when I started Trent, the student dormitories were above my office. And you would say, well, that's a weird thing. Why is there faculty offices and student dormitories are mixed like that? Well, the idea was to actually they encourage the exchange between students and faculty. We don't have that anymore nowadays. We separate it, but nevertheless, that idea is still there. The quads, where people see each other, talk to each other, and because our classrooms are small, I always hire my undergraduate students as research assistants in a very large university where each class is 300, 400 students. It's very difficult. The professor never gets to know their students. But at Trent, I know my second year students by names, who they are. By the years, third and fourth years, they actually become part of our departments. We have department resource rooms, they are there, they're part of the faculty research, they're part of the department community. So that actually is very important for interdisciplinary education. It's not just what happens in the classroom, but what happens outside the classroom.
Oh, thank you for that. Now, I'll ask you the same question, Dr. Firang. As a faculty instructor and as a researcher in your field, what do you consider to be the distinct features of a Trent University degree?
Thank you. And following up on the lead of my colleague, Professor Baban, at Trent, right? What is so unique about Trent is that interdisciplinary pathway that established. See the need that our students can understand and make connections across a diverse array of knowledge and skills, right? And also we understand that our students can only embark on a path to a more rewarding lives and employment opportunities, right? Our interdisciplinary education can and must do better job of leading the way out of that, like I made a point of interdisciplinary silos, right? In my area, I have students, I'm in social work profession, but I have students that I work with from education, psychology, and statistics, and I've hired them as my research assistants, right? And it's amazing to see how they bring in knowledge, right? Different levels of analyzing this data, different ways of knowing, different, and I'm just working on something on the impact on COVID-19, and the title is International Students Matters, impact of COVID-19 on international students. And interesting to see how these students from education, from sustainability studies, from psychology are putting up different array of data collection measures and procedure, which is going to help me to understand different way of knowing and understanding international students' experiences during this COVID-19. So that is what interdisciplinary power means. And that is what Trent is leading the way to offer this opportunity to our students, our faculty members, and our researchers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Firang. Before I move to the next question, what are some of the most remarkable program combinations you have encountered at Trent? Dr. Firang?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned in my other first presentation, there's this program combination at Trent, and I want everybody listen to me to understand that. We have the IDSR. It's a PhD program, which is interdisciplinary social research. The amazing aspect of this program is that you have people from different fields, from the humanities, from the social sciences, from the physical sciences, the biological sciences, all coming in to do this. But the bulk of knowledge is in that. In the field of social work, the beauty of it is that we have even neurologists, people who work in the brain, to be able to understand how a child functions, be able to understand why is it that a 16-year-old child or an 18-year-old person cognitively function like a 2-year-old. It is only through this interdisciplinary idea that helps us to have a better understanding of how human behavior function in our contemporary society. So that is what Trent is doing through his IDSR program. Another program is the sustainability program, right? It also picks on all graduates from different levels, from economics, geography, development planning, and all others. So Trent is the only place where this interdisciplinary program, and Elder, to also to help people to understand, this program also try to have a connection with the communities, right? For us, academic knowledge becomes useless if you only contain itself in a classroom and a university. But the programs are designed in such a way that they are able to connect, right, with the larger community. For example, Professor Baben's program of ideas, they have a program that Trent in Ghana, right, where students from Trent go to Ghana every year to experience what it's like to be in a different world. And I have these 2 or 3 students in my social work class. And during that international social work practice, they come to share great ideas about how they experience. And sometimes jokingly, I said, they go in and experience palm wine. It's a kind of, strong alcohol that you drink, you don't have blood pressure. And then for the students, it gives them that cultural exchange, cultural experience. So in Trent, our interdisciplinary program is not only about containing ourselves in a classroom, but connecting ourselves to the world, to the local community, the national community, and international community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Firang. What about you, Dr. Baban? What do you think are some of the most remarkable program combinations that you have encountered at Trent?
Thank you, Adele. The one other area I'd like to emphasize, in addition to what Professor Firang has mentioned about the interdisciplinary education and these encouraging cross-disciplinary connections. Actually, at Trent, we make it easy to gain degrees in different programs because in not every university, actually, it's possible or it's that easy to have majors, double majors, minors, or other combinations of degrees. But because Trent, right from the early days, had this interdisciplinary orientation, we make it easy for students to have joint degrees in different disciplines. It looks like complicated, but it's actually very easy. Even in the university's calendar copy, each department specifies, what courses that you would need to do a major, let's say, international development studies, and what courses that you may need to do a double major in another discipline. So it's actually very natural, very easy. So as a result, you see all sorts of combinations at Trent that in our programs. Like I always see, international development studies students doing a joint major with business, doing a joint major with environmental studies, doing a joint major with political studies, doing a joint major with anthropology, sometimes with social work. So there are all sorts of combinations exist. Some of the programs that we establish is interdisciplinary in nature. That recently, for instance, we have launched this what we call specialization in migration and refugee studies. So in migration and refugee studies, that the students from other disciplines, by taking a certain number of courses, that they can have this designation. It's not a double degree, but it is a designation. It shows that while you're doing your degree, let's say in business or sociology or social work, you develop a certain expertise in migration refugee studies. So there are all sorts of ways to encourage that interdisciplinary education, and the university's overall bureaucratic system makes that very easy to explore those alternatives.
Oh, thank you. We didn't know that. Now that's great. Taking you to our alumni, Dr. Baban, what great things have you witnessed as outcomes of an interdisciplinary education with our alumni all over the world?
Well, I'm getting to a stage now in my career is that my students now, they're all sort of becoming university professors and directors and this and that. So that's the satisfying part of it. It reminds me that I'm getting older, but that's the great part of it. The one thing though I can say, and that may be a counterintuitive for those of you who are listening to us and thinking about and contemplating about university education, but at least in my experience, my most successful students now who are university professors, they're working in international organizations. Some of them are high-level bureaucrats in Canadian governments. Interestingly enough, actually, they were the ones that who were very wide open in their orientation. They were the ones who were didn't really obsess too much about what job that they were going to get. And some of them maybe were a bit wandering, but they were actually very open and inquisitive. They were curious, and they were there for the love of learning. So, and many of those students, they actually moved on, doing very successful careers. Most of our students end up in very interesting jobs and places. But as I said, I see them in bureaucracy, I see them in international organizations. Some of them actually, I see them launching their own businesses, and being in touch with them is actually a great source of inspiration, and they come back. At least in the IDSC department, we have a very close-knit alumni group, and they come back and they talk to our current students and they inspire them. And sometimes they answer and they suit their anxieties, because being a university student these days is not easy. There are lots of challenges. There's a lot of anxiety about future, about what's going to happen. So it's important to have that strong alumni core. They come and talk, and they actually support. They provide support to existing students, and that kind of camaraderie that exists among them. Thanks, Adam.
Dr. Firang, what about you? What are some of the great outcomes of interdisciplinary education for our alumni?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a very important question, and my colleague, Professor Baben, have just thrown everything out there. But to add just a little point to that, our graduating students, sometimes what we do in our interdisciplinary program, that we do what we call exit survey, right? For those who are leaving the program, who have come to the end of their program, to complete a survey to tell us about the experience. And one day I was just traveling from Africa, and I came to the Pearson International Airport, right? And one of the alumni of our program, right? He was become a senior immigration officer, and it was in there when they take your passport, where did you arrive? You look at my name and you look at me, and I saw a smile on his face. And I said, wow, why is this guy smiling? I don't know. So later when he checked me, where do you come from? Are you from Africa? He said, no, he gave me my passport. And as I walk outside, he just followed me slowly. And I saw a tap. I thought I've done something. Oh my God, did I do something wrong? And I said, David, I was one of your students. Wow, at Trent, 4 or 5 years ago when you came here, and you were talking about diversity, and I'm taking this to the workplace, and it has helped me a lot. And so I just want to say thank you. And it was so fulfilling, right? When we hear, and I said, well, as alumni, when can you come and then speak to your fellow students, right? Encourage them that our interdisciplinary program like social work and others are making an inroad, very great inroad into situations like this. And so normally in my classes, I use these alumni, right, as guest speakers who come and share the experience. And that is exciting for our students. It encourages them. It gives them that sense of purpose, right? It also provides them with that sense of place, as place and a belonging that they live in an academic community where there's that opportunity to thrive and that the vision is bright for them. Thank you. You are muted.
Thank you, Dr. Firang. Sorry about that. Thank you. Now, as your take-home point, for students thinking about your area of expertise, what will you tell them they will experience in your program that is distinctly Trent? What can you tell students interested?
Well, for me, I will tell everybody listening to us on this platform that Trent is a unique university. It is that university that will lead you to where you want to be. Even where you have even decided a path, Trent will improve upon that path and tell you that there are other optional paths. Other optional paths in the sense that, like I mentioned before, with an interdisciplinary, there are different ways of knowing. There are multiple realities out there. It is not only in the scientific objective reality that when we all see this phone as black, then it's black. But there are different ways of understanding and knowing and seeing this phone. That is what Trent will do for you. Maybe you have created a path that I want to become this person. But through our interdisciplinary program, you will learn to build on different opportunities. You learn to navigate different pathways to success. And that is what Trent will have for you. So we encourage you all to make Trent your home. You can reach out to me or you can reach out to Professor Barban. Trent is the best iconic university in Ontario. That is why we are the #1 university in Ontario 10 years in a row. No university can compare. Thank you. You're muted. You're muted.
True to that, Dr. Firang. Back to you, Dr. Baban. I'll ask the same question. For students who are interested about your area of expertise, what will you tell them they will experience that is distinctly Trent?
Yes. Thank you, Adele. I think what I can tell all of you, what is distinctly a Trent and what is unique to Trent is that you will become part of a community. And that's very important. One of the things that attracted me to Trent when I came here for a job interview, that was some time ago. And, I knew a little bit about Trent, but I hadn't been to the campus at the time. I came and one thing it sort of grabs you right away is the sense of community, and over the years the institution of course have changed, but that sense of community is very important. So students, and you come to Trent, you actually come out of Trent as a different person. And that one example always stayed with me, and I repeat, that was several years ago. One of my 4th year classes, and it's one of my traditions. Unfortunately, we can't do it because of pandemic, But when I finish my fourth year classes, we tend to go out together with students and to have a celebration, to have a drink, because our fourth year classes are small. So, you know, we were talking, and I asked students, I said, now you're finishing Trent and you have your degree. So like, what has changed? Like, what do you think? What happened to you in this 4 years? And then one of my students, he said, well, you know, I said, I'm coming from a small town from Ontario. And said, I came here with one person, but I'm a completely different person. And Trent has changed me. I'm looking at the things that I've never looked at before. I've read things I've never read before. I am a different person, and I don't think without Trent experience, I would have been that different person that I am today. So that transformative impact is, to me, what is distinct and unique about Trent, is that it's not just actually you go to classes, you take, classes, you read things, and then you get grades, and then you get a diploma at the end. But what is, I think, distinct at Trent is that you come here as one person, and then you leave as another person. It's a transformative experience.
Thank you for that, Dr. Baban. To our attentive audience, if anyone has a question to Dr. Firang or to Dr. Baban, you are allowed to ask. Any questions? Okay, looks like we don't have any questions now. Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to say a warm thank you to Dr. Firang and Dr. Baban. That was really, really good. I'm sure all of us are going to take home too much information about interdisciplinary studies, too much information about Trent and how transformative and how you become Trent. Thank you so much for that. Now, moving on next, I'd like to introduce Tamara Mustafa, who is a student from Kenya. She's one of our international students who is pursuing forensic science. Welcome, Tamara. Talk to us a little about yourself and why you chose forensics and what's your experience? What can you tell us about being an international student at Trent? You're welcome, Tamara.
Okay, thank you, Adele. Thank you, Trent International, for having me on your panel today. So as Adele said, I'm from Kenya. I'm in the forensic science program, currently in my third year. The main reason I chose Trent is that when I was looking at other institutions, they were not as open or provided as much information as Trent does when you look at its website. And the fact that particularly in the forensic science program, they kept on emphasizing that there's a hands-on experience, which personally drew me to that, because I wouldn't want to come for a program, be in the lab, but there's no that hands-on experience that I can say I applied what I learned. So that drew me to applying to Trent, and I managed to get into the program. And one thing so far that I like about Trent is there's like a sense of community. You'll never like lack. So for me, my community, I would say, is being a part of the college system, and I'm from Autonomy College, and I would say like so far, just being a part of Autonomy has like boosted my confidence like way high. Because before I joined Trent, I was in like a cocoon. I wouldn't want to engage with things that were currently like out of like the academics. I would just like focus on academics, not focus on other aspects of life. But being a part of like Autonomy and being a part of the Trent International community, I've had the opportunity to work for Autonomy, which I currently do as a college ambassador. I've also had the opportunity to work for Trent International as a volunteer for their Global Ambassador program. So that way I get to meet a variety of people around the world and just basically help them settle into Canada, which is in a sense rewarding because you know you were there before, and to have that like someone tell you like you changed my life is the best thing that you can hear from them. And also another thing at Trent is I think being back home in Africa, you're a bit oblivious to stuff like minorities, like you're used to a community where it's just like the African population as compared to like having a mixed variety of people. But when you come into Canada, you realize like inequities, and it's eye-opening at the same time, and it also like triggers you to want to make a change. So on my part, I'd say I've like currently like started looking into inequities, and that way a colleague of mine and I have a radio show that we have every single Wednesday on Trent Radio that basically invites international students as guests, and they tell us about their experience, tell us about how it is being a minority. We've even had people who left Trent. So we asked them like, how is it after leaving Trent? Why did you decide that you still want to stay in Canada? So with that, it's been a great experience, and I'm honestly really glad that I chose Trent. And to people out here, it would be really nice to see a couple of you join Trent. Trust me, you won't regret it. It's surpasses my expectations. And I know even though it's 1 year left, trust me, a lot of change is going to come in that 1 year. And I want someone else to experience that as well during the duration of the study. But that's all from me. In case anyone has any questions, feel free to direct message me on Zoom and I'll respond to them. But thank you for the opportunity, Adele.
Thank you, Tamara. I still have a question for you kindly. Could you talk about your experience with our Trent housing? What was it for you, the transition from home to accommodation at Trent?
So the thing is, I'll be honest, I haven't actually lived on campus. Immediately I joined Trent, I started living off campus because it was more, how do I say, when you join Trent and you're not receiving like a scholarship or the funding, it's kind of expensive to live on campus as compared to being off campus. But I do live at a place that's like really close to the university. So probably if anyone has questions about off-campus housing, how you get it, that's the best way I can explain to them. But in terms of on-campus housing, I have no experience with that.
Oh, okay, that's okay. A little bit more about the weather. How did it affect you in any way? What can you say about the weather?
Oh, the weather. I'd say it all depends on an individual. If you're that type of person who just adapts easily to a situation, it might take you like a month or so, and then you start warming up to the idea that, ooh, it's really cold. But another thing is, as compared to my first year and currently how the conditions are right now, I'd say it's really, really cold. You never get used to it fully, as the locals would be, but it takes time. As long as you have the proper gear, you'll be good.
Okay, thank you for that, Tamara. Your closing words for our interested students, what can you tell them? Closing remarks.
My closing remarks is, I'd say for all of you who are on this Zoom and are questioning, should I apply or shouldn't I apply? I have this thing, always go for it. Don't be like, what if? So make sure you apply. The most you can get is that you're rejected, but you know you had that opportunity to try. And I know if you do get into Trent, that you'll experience so much and you'll be super grateful for having joined Trent, be it in the academic setting or the social setting, but Trent is rewarding. So try it out.
Thank you, Tamara.
Thank
you for that. Any questions from our audience to Tamara? Any questions? I want to leave it for the open mic. So if you have any questions, not specifically to Tamara, if you have any questions with regards to Trent, admissions, scholarships, the presentations today, any questions from our lovely audience? You can unmute and ask a question, or you could ask a question in the chat box.
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question based on the admission process. I was actually asking the question on the chat box, but I wanted to ask you personally. What's the requirements? Like someone told me about Casper test. What's that? I don't understand. What's that? For nursing students, for an aspiring nursing student.
Do you want me to take that?
Yes, Kat.
Yeah.
All right. So to become a nurse in Ontario, all nursing students, to go into a program, all nursing students, whether you're from Canada or from anywhere else in the world, are required to take the Casper test. It's part of the admission process. So if you go to the nursing, if you go to the School of Nursing website and you look at their admissions, it will provide details about that Casper test.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Speaking of scholarships too. Yeah, speaking of scholarships too, because my parents are like, they told me that they'll be able to fund my school stuff, like funding my school fees and stuff for like a year or two, but like I would want to get scholarship after that. So what was like the scholarship program? How can someone get scholarship in Trent University?
I can take that one as well. So everyone here is welcome. If you go to the Trent International website, which is, someone can pop that into the chat. When you go to our website, you're going to see some main topics, and one of them is funding your education and scholarships. Of course, that is at top of mind for any student, right? So it will explain to you how to go and apply. Any student can apply, but really, you really need to be fair and honest with yourself. You know, we're looking for strong students. We're looking for students who have high academic standing in high school. So you would need to be getting over 80% in your academic average for scholarship. And even, you know, even if your family has the intent to fund your education, if you're an exceptional, outstanding student and you're a leader and you're involved in your school and you're involved in your community, still apply, because you know you've earned that. You're a hardworking student, you're an outstanding global citizen, and that's what we're trying to attract to Trent. We want outstanding students who are going to come to the university and make it more and more amazing, like all of the things that Tamara talked about that she's doing as a student. If she wasn't getting involved and doing things outside of the classroom, she would not have the same wealth of experience that that she would otherwise. So, you know, getting engaged, getting involved as a student, and give yourself the credit for the hard work that you've done as a high school student. I see that Chris Mugabo has.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. I love your handle, Trent Aspirant. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Chris. Hi, how are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Your question?
I had a question. I had actually a couple of questions. I'm an applicant. I'm from Rwanda, Africa, in Eastern Africa. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I had a couple of questions. First one, I've already applied to Trent. I wanted like to ask the time frame for the response, the feedback after the applications. I think my next question goes to Tamara. I think she said that she may provide us with some info about off-campus housing. I would also want to ask her something about that. She can tell us like an overview about that. And then finally, I had a question about scholarships, but fortunately they have answered it. So I think for now, those are my questions. Thank you. Yeah, and finally, sorry, I forgot. I'm interested in the computer science but want to specialize in software engineering. And also wanted some overview about that. if the degree you get says that you did computer and specialize in software engineering, or which year you typically take your specialization, if it's the first year, second, or third year. Yeah, just take it.
Okay, Chris, thanks for your questions. If I got you right, you said you have already applied to Trent for your computer science specialization in software engineering?
Yes.
Okay, when did you submit your application?
It's been 2 days.
2 days.
Yes.
Okay, could you kindly give it like 7, 8 more days before you could get a response? Give it plus or minus 2 to 3 weeks. Okay.
Yes.
And you had a question for Tamara?
Yes, I had a question for Tamara.
Tamara, Chris wanted you to talk a little bit more about the housing, living outside Trent.
Okay. I'd say housing in terms of the range of like prices, it's all dependent on the region that you want to stay. So if you're looking for cheap housing, you'd find that closer to the downtown where like the buses are more frequent. And then if you want a place that's like closer to Trent or is in like what you'd consider like a residence, like family residences, it's a bit higher. So it's all about what you're looking for and what you're willing to compromise on. But for one thing about housing is that can be tricky is that you don't know at times if the person that you're reaching out to can be genuine or you're being scammed. So I would say if you're looking for off-campus housing, your first stop is always go to the Trent Housing website. And Trent Housing website like provides a few guides. They do have a bit of webinars where they talk about housing, and if it's your first time looking for it, what are the things that you should look out for. So if that's one thing you're interested in, you can have a look there. And then also at the Trent Housing website, you will find there's a particular website called Off Campus Places for Students, and you can apply through that. And most times it's a guarantee that the person is a bit genuine as compared to going to places like Kijiji or the Facebook Marketplace. So first step is always try and look on that website because it's mostly affiliated with like people who are looking for particularly Trent students versus someone who's randomly just looking to rent out their place. So always start from there. And then if you ever come into an issue where yes, you do find accommodation, but you can't find someone to have a look at it and check if it's genuine, always ask that landlord if they'd be willing to have like a video tour so that you have that experience that what they're saying is the facilities in their place is actually the case. So that's what I did in my first year because I didn't know anyone around in Canada who'd come and check out the place for me. But I asked the landlord and he was like, yeah, sure, I'll show you the place. So that's one thing that just generally encourage people to look for is just make sure you're not being scammed. Just don't send out money before you know this person is actually genuine, because for a lot of international students, you're trying to save on your coins because education is the priority as compared to losing money in the housing, but that's the main thing.
Thank you, Tamara. I would now love to introduce our next student ambassador, who is Suleima. Suleima is a Canadian born in Bahrain. Welcome, Suleima, to talk to our potential students.
Hi, so as Idel said, I'm Canadian, but grew up in the Middle East between Bahrain and Qatar. And I just graduated from Trent last month with a BA in Ancient Greek and Roman Studies and a minor in History. And during my time at Trent, I really felt connected to the community as all the professors were really friendly and with so many clubs and groups, and always had somewhere that I belonged. And even then, it's really easy to meet and connect with other people. And during that time too, I kind of grew out of my shell as well, from like Tamara, from being more closed off and wanting to like focus on academics to getting out of my comfort zone and meeting people whenever I had the chance and trying new things out. Yeah, and during that time too, like even living on campus as part of Champlain College, it was easy for me to meet new people and meet with community events.
Salima, so what did you tell our potential students is your best experience, was your best experience at Trent?
That is tough because I've pretty much enjoyed every single moment that I had at Trent. But I guess if I had to pick one experience, it would probably be SAT, which is the South Asian Association at Trent's Diwali event, as there I kind of got to try out like a new celebration that I didn't really know much about it, and the community there was like really accepting. And I even know that some of the other clubs, they celebrate things like Afrobana, which like people have always enjoyed going to and just experiencing like their own culture or someone else's, and just to learn more about it.
Thank you, Salima. Thank you so much. Any questions for Salima from our potential students?
Hello.
Any questions? Yes,
Hello.
Ebenezer.
Yeah, I have a question based on scholarship requirements. There's a place where you are supposed to upload videos and pictures of yourself involved in extracurricular activities. What if you don't have any of such video or photos? What do you do about that?
Okay. Before I answer, Trent, aspirant, do you have any question?
Yeah, I do.
Go
Why
ahead.
did you forget? Okay. She said she graduated with a major in Roman and Greek studies and a minor in history. But our educational system in Africa, we don't have major and minor. So I wanted to understand, because when you're studying in a university, like my school in Nigeria, you just study one course. There's just one course and you graduate with that course. So I want to know how it's possible to like study two courses. And what's the difference between a major and a minor? I don't really get. That's my question.
Salima, would you like?
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kat.
Okay, so sorry, Salima, do you want to talk about this or do you want me to take it?
You can take it if you want.
So this is again part of that interdisciplinary learning environment that you can take advantage of. So each year of your degree, you will take a total of 5 credits. And those credits usually happen, you'll take 5 courses in your first semester, 5 courses in your second semester. So when you're in a double major, we have a document called the academic calendar, and it's actually going to tell you how many courses and which courses you need to get that major. So it just means that instead of studying, so let's just say that you're studying history, instead of taking all of your courses in history, even if you were studying history, you would still be able to take electives. Electives are just additional courses that are not required. If you're taking 2 different majors, you're going to have to make sure that you take all of the required subjects, which may just leave you with less or fewer electives. So we tell you how to work your way through that system.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, please, I have a question.
Yes, Ebenezer.
Yes, please. My question is about the requirements about the scholarship requirement. There is a place where you are supposed to upload videos and photos about you having involving in, I think, extracurricular. What if you don't have any photo or video? What do you do about that?
Now, Ebenezer, for scholarship requirements, remember we are not only looking at the merit, we're also looking at financial need, extracurricular, and the awards are going to be given depending on whatever you've submitted. So in case you're interested to apply for the scholarship and you don't have any community or leadership involvement to attach, then it means your application is not really complete per se, because you've only submitted the other bits, but you've left out the community leadership involvement bit of the scholarship application.
Okay, thank you very much.
Got anything to add to that?
So Adele, let me add something quickly. Can you, for the scholarships? Yeah. Hello, Adele. Can I?
Yes, Dr. Firan, go ahead.
Yeah, for the scholarship, Ebenezer, I mean, those of you who are also interested in graduate studies, right? Or even some undergraduate studies, some of our faculty members have research grants, right? And then with research grants, depend upon your area of expertise, are able to hire you on, and then you get the modest amount of money to help you with that. I've hired about 2 or 3 research assistants who are helping me in my research, and 2 of them are doing really well, so I've retained them on, and then they'll be working with me. So there's another area of funding opportunities that you can also explore at Trent, quite apart from that. Speak to the faculty of your interest, even undergraduate students. We here at Trent, we have what is called high qualified personnel, that's HQP. And this HQP caliber are also not only graduate students, but also undergraduate students. Right now I have 2 graduate students, 2 undergraduate students who are working with me, and 2 graduate students who are also working with my research project, and that give them some extra funding opportunities. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Firan. Thank you so much. Any other questions from our students?
There's a question from, and I know I won't pronounce it correctly, but Ajegbe. Am I even close?
Yes. I want to ask about the AIM, the interdisciplinary program. I already have a PhD in economics, and I would love to go for that PhD interdisciplinary because my teaching tends towards sustainability, looking at other topics which are not in my mainstream economics, like looking like urban and regional development and like the city development. So I don't know if I can still, with me having a background of PhD, I can still put in for the PhD interdisciplinary. Then I've written to some faculty members, but I'm not getting response. I don't know if I can still try again, and because the question somebody raised was why another PhD? So I would like to get clarification from on that.
Thank you, Ajaybe. Dr. Firan, would you like to say something on that?
Okay, Ajaybe, thank you very much for your question. And I'm also involved in the IDSR program. And as I speak, I have 2 students that I'm supervising, one from South Asia and one from Africa. And they are doing very well. And like I said, this is an interdisciplinary program where students bring different knowledge from different fields. I mean, if you have somebody that you are interested in urban studies, right? Urban studies, land use, urban planning, and all that, you know, somebody like you, because I mean, the beauty of Trent is that that interdisciplinary program, which I spoke about earlier, gives students opportunities from different fields, right, to bring their knowledge. And I always tell my students that I learn a lot from them, from the classroom, when you have opportunity to supervise graduate students. You learn a new way of addressing issues from them. So yeah, JB, I mean, it's there, and don't worry about people telling you that you have double PhD. I came here as an international student. I completed my first master's degree at the University of Saskatchewan. But then when I became a permanent resident, I went back, changed my career to social work, and I started another master's degree program at University of Toronto. In academic realm, right? The more you do it, the more you become more experienced. And I know many students have double PhDs and they come in and then they do what? It is about the field of inquiry. You know, the world is changing. Sometimes you did something 10 years ago and then you realize now it is less relevant at today's dynamics of knowledge. So don't let that turn you down, right? And bring that is an aspect of how we internalize our own oppression. Somebody say, oh, I'm a 55-year-old woman, I can't go to school. Now I tell my students that is an aspect of internalized oppression. And when it comes to Trent, we are here to support you and help you to navigate through that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Firang.
Thank you, Prof.
Kat, would you like to add anything on to what Adegbe was asking?
Thanks, Adele. I'm just, it's really important to connect with the School of Graduate Studies. And from there, you can work on your application, and you can also connect with thesis supervisors and whatnot. So congratulations, you already have a PhD and you're after a second one. And I agree that that program is extremely interesting, and I've even looked at it myself. So good luck with your pursuit of that. That's great, thank you. So if there aren't any more questions, we're just wrapping up in about 10 minutes. I wanted to just invite our Associate Vice President, Glennis Burns, who oversees all of Trent International. Just she's come to join us and make some remarks as well. So Glennis, over to you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Kath, and thanks team for hosting this, and thanks David and everybody else who's been part of this. And I'm enjoying hearing the conversation and the questions, and I guess a few things, 3 things. One, I wanted to just point out, I'll call it facilities. Trent is big enough and small enough that you will be able to have a choice of courses and programming and facilities on campus, including the athletic complex. And you can see behind me the river that runs through the Peterborough campus. You can be part of the rowing team, students swim in the river. And so there's a whole number of things that you can do on campus and be part of with clubs and groups. Second thing I'd say is faculty. And so you've met David, Professor Dr. David Firang on this call today. And David's been a huge supporter of Trent International, but we have hundreds of other faculty members who are supportive of international students and are experts in their fields. And you'll know that when you're taking those courses, you're going to be working with and studying with faculty from all walks of life, from all areas of expertise, and we'll have an amazing time. And we're small enough that you can get to learn your professor, who they are. If you need to have them write a letter of reference, we have smaller class sizes and you'll be able to do that. The last one is family. I wanted to end off with that it is enjoyable to see everybody on this call, and that Trent International and Trent University want to be your family. And we look forward to seeing you when you arrive, whether that be in the summer or whether you're coming in September. And we have a whole army of people in our office, and you've met some of them today from all over the world and on our campuses that are here to take care of you, to answer your questions, to ensure that you participate. Anything from wellness to academic advising to language training to immigration questions to just fun, having fun on campus. So we want to be your family, and we do look forward to seeing you when you arrive this year in 2022. And we hope that 2022 is going to be an exceptional year and that we move forward and that we will definitely get back to normal. So it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for joining today. Thank you for all of your questions. And from our family to your families, please be safe, and we'll see you in a couple of months.
Sorry, I had a question. I think I have a question which hasn't been answered.
Sure.
Yes, Chris.
I think I had asked about information about specialization. I'd said software engineering, and I think my question hasn't been answered. I'd asked typically which year the specialization starts, and does it go on your degree when you graduate? That was my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Kuram, would you like to say something about that?
Sure. So I'll start with the second question. Does the specialization go on your degree? Yes. The first question, when does it start? It typically starts from the second year. But some students also go straight ahead and decide their specializations right at the time of the application. So you have the choice to either declare it right from the get-go or take a year, understand what the program is like. Maybe you have different feelings towards the end of the year, and that is when you can go ahead and choose your specialization. Am I right, Kath? So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thanks, Kuram, for the answer. Any other questions from our students? If not, I'll leave it open. If you have any question, you can put it in the chat box. I'd like to say thank you again for coming to this call. Thank you for joining us today for our open house. It was lovely to have you all here. I'm sure my colleagues will agree. It was lovely to meet you all today. And like Glenys has said, we are a family and we are looking forward to seeing you at Trent very soon. For those who have yet to apply, kindly apply. Apply for the programs, different programs, apply for our Trent International Scholarships, and we'd love to see you at Trent. Thanks again for coming and have a good evening, a good day. Thank you all. Bye.
There's 2 more tomorrow, folks, if you want to join and meet different faculty and hear more about Trent, or ask your mom and dad to join, or someone else, ask a friend, come back. You might have to stay up until a weird time of day, but we're a lot of fun to hang out with on a Saturday. Thank you, Dr. Freng. Thank you, Dr. Baban, and thank you to everyone from Trent for all of the hard work putting this together. I have such a great team to work with, and thank you all for attending. We, of course, can't wait to greet you at the airport and bring you to campus and start your the next chapter of your life at Trent.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, Kathy. And
stay healthy.